Welcome to episode 4 of the Mad Englishman with the Little Guitar and the Big C. My name is Mick Jackson. I'm joined again by Wendy Lilly, Information Support Lead for Macmillan. And we're going to go through after the treatment. So previously on the Mad Englishman with the Little Guitar and the Big C, we've looked in episode 1 at the diagnosis and the shock when you have the news that you've got cancer of some description. Episode 2 then looked at handling the period between diagnosis and the start of the treatment, ploughing your way through the big machine that is the NHS. Episode 3 was the treatment itself, with particular focus on the chemo and the radiotherapy, and now we're going to move in on this one to look at the after the treatment period. So week 1 to 6 is the treatment itself, and I can remember my biggest shock at the end of week 6, which in my case was the middle of June, thinking, oh wow, that's it, that's the treatment over, forget it, because the radiotherapy that is the work that the radiography has done in your body takes another 2 or 3 weeks to finish its effect. So the upward curve of discomfort from week 3 onwards, I'm afraid, goes on for another 2 or 3 weeks, because the treatment is still effectively working. So we're going to look at that 3-week period between week 7 and week 10. Then we'll look at a longer period between weeks 11 and 26, and then 26 onwards, because those are the sort of key points of change in my experience. It will be different for different people. The information that the oncology teams give you suggests that some of these things that didn't happen for me will happen within 2 weeks. It didn't for me on these particular things. It didn't for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. There is a line in the information that NHS give you, which is really scary, because it says you should start getting this back after 2 or 3 weeks. You might this back after 6 weeks, this back after 12 weeks, and in some cases it might last longer, and in some cases it might be permanent. Whoa, really scary. So you will always have that in the back of your mind, and that I certainly have during this period. And it's things like production of saliva, because they just don't know to what degree it's damaged your production of saliva and everything. And one thing I have learned is that is the importance of saliva in terms of being able to eat, being able to break down any food, etc., etc. So first thing is you finish the treatment, you ring the bell, you come out and you think, that's great. It's not great, because don't expect the change immediately, because the radiotherapy is still working. I'm going to repeat a lot of the things from the last one, but it's really important during this period to just consider in your mind that you're still going in and having radiotherapy every day, because it is still working. So you've still got to do all the things to look after it. Really, really moisturize your neck. I keep saying moisturize your neck. Mine very nearly came out in a couple of sores. But I managed to sort of cleaning it and moisturizing it and really looking after it. I came very close to having some sores. I've seen some people in the oncology part with the sores, and you know, if you can avoid it, it really is worth it. That said, I did avoid it, so I was really lucky there. You'll still need to nebulize or steam at least 2 or 3 times a day. just because it makes life easier. It makes, you know, if you do suffer from the mucosis that I did, that's the only way really to survive it, is the nebulize or steam or whatever, just to try and break it up a bit. There is one area which I discovered, but that's going to be later. I'll come on to that later. Increase exercise. You know, if there's one thing I've said throughout this is please just try and exercise. Even if it's just to walk around the block, just keep it going, because I don't think I did enough. And week 7 to 10 and since then has been really quite difficult for me to actually build up the exercise again. You'll get what I think was probably, until the summer, was probably they probably had personal meetings, face-to-face meetings in week 7 and week 9. They have been replaced, or they certainly during my time they were replaced by telephone calls. So we've got a phone call in week 7 and a phone call in week 9. Now, I really felt like I've been deserted in that, and because they're necessarily less personal, because it's coming over the phone, and you don't feel that you can really get your point across quite as well. It works perfectly well, but it's a bit like I was saying, that 6 weeks, you immerse yourself for that 6 weeks, you've got the comfort blanket of the whole team around you, whereas suddenly you're just getting a phone call. So that's quite different, but that's in your head as much as anything. So do you get other people who've said similar things?
Yeah, and that's why we put on like courses like the Hope course, because I think it's so intense for a period of time, and then it becomes less intense. So you're used to seeing people daily at one point, or regularly when you're having chemo, and then it's sort of less and less. Yeah. It's almost like the safety blanket's gone, and then what do you do?
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah. You know, even when you're sitting in the radiotherapy waiting room or something, you know, Maz or Stephen will walk through and they'll say, "Oh, you know, how's it going today?" You know, that's even without the formal meetings with them, and that was quite difficult to handle. But you know, it keeps getting better. So
did it give you a chance as well? Because a lot of people will say that during treatment they go into almost like an auto drive of getting, you know, the treatment, getting through the treatment, and that when treatment finishes, that's when people start to reflect on what's gone on. It's almost like gives them a bit of headspace that then can create a bit of distress, really.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I can see that, because you're losing some of the, you know, you've lost your crutches, so you've got to learn to walk again without crutches. You know, that's the sort of that's the sort of analogy, I think. But again, it does get better and there is the safety net, if you like, of the emergency assessment bay, which I spent 2 days probably there in the sort of weeks after, in the few weeks after. One, because I got sort of quite badly dehydrated, I think, so I was even and just having fluids pumped in and antibiotics pumped in at one point as well. And that's an amazing place. It's absolutely manic. It's completely overused, but somehow it works. You know, somehow it works. So that's pretty good. But I didn't get told, but you only get it for you're only eligible for it for 6 weeks after your treatment finishes. So again, that's something that's worth bearing in mind. So it's a difficult 3-week period, that, and you start to think, am I ever going to go better? Am I going to be one of these that is permanent on? But it does get better, and I can remember, I think it was week 9. We went to a party, and there was a buffet there, and that was the first time I'd actually got a little paper plate full of some stuff, and and managed to eat most of it as well. So that was a real sort of breakthrough moment for me. And it's little things like that. And you go, oh, that's good. Because there are a number of things that you need to look at. So it's the condition of your mouth, it's your neck, it's the swallowing, it's the mucus, and the amount of saliva you're producing, and that sort of thing, and to a degree your voice. So there's all these different things, and you're looking for an improvement thing that's like that, and it doesn't work that way. So any one of the 5 or 6 things can be all right for a couple of days, and you think, oh, that's good, that's getting better, that's good, and then it will regress. And then and that takes a lot of getting used to, because that's quite dispiriting, that you think, oh, the swallowing was okay for 2 or 3 days, but now that's gone back as worse, as bad as it was. And that's still happening to me now to a degree, and it's the taste is the big issue. I didn't really cover that in the last session. If I'd just lost a sense of taste, I could understand. I could cope with that, because you'd work on memory. So you'd say, here's a Greg's steak bake. I'm not allowed to say that, Greg's steak bake. I remember what that tastes like, and then you say, it doesn't work like that. So with this particular treatment, anything you eat that is sweet tastes salty, and the sweeter it's meant to taste, the more salty it is. So I love fruit, but things like grapes, strawberries, apples, oranges are just a complete no-no, unless you can cope with really, really salty. And the sweeter it is, the saltier the taste comes. So that's a really difficult one. On the savoury front, everything for the first few weeks, everything tastes metallic, and then as that gets better, you lose a bit of the metallic taste, but then you've got to put a lot of salt on. It's just a really, really weird, experience. So again, it gets better during the sort of later weeks, but it's still not really there. And again, that regresses. So I had an apple a week ago, and part of it, my mentally thing, I'd adjusted to say, okay, well, apples are going to taste slightly salty now, but there was an underlying taste of apple coming through, which I thought was great. And then a week later, try another one, and it's right back. So if you can get your head around that, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's frustrating, So
and in the early days, when there was parts of recovery that were regressing, did you feel you could contact somebody just to sort of say that, I feel like I've just taken a step back, or whatever? Is this normal?
Yes, you could through that, and I still do, because so the regime immediately after the treatment is you get a phone call after 1 week, another phone call after another 2 weeks. Then you're on the monthly oncology one-stop shop, and those back face to face then, which is really good. And I've had 2 or 3 of those, I think, now, and that's in ENT, and they put the camera up the nose and down, and sort of have a good look at what's going on there. On the first one, there was a scare, because the CT scan made it look like there was a cancer still there, or cancer there, or whatever. So they had a prolonged session with the camera down there, and they could see that it was actually lymphedema. There was an edema in there. There was a swelling that was. So they've given the okay on that. So but on each one of those, I still say, look, my swallowing's improved for a bit, but then it's gone back. My mucus is not going, and that sort of thing. So there's still a chance, and I think those monthly sessions go on through throughout the first year post treatment. So there is a chance to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, by now I at least have sort of moved on from the distress of losing the comfort blanket. So you know, you adjust the things. So that was pretty good. So you go on to really the next phase is from week 11 to week 26. So that takes you to 6 months after the end of the treatment, really, which is quite, or that's 6 months after the start of the treatment. That's the way I worked it out. So week 12, you have CT and MRI scans, and that was where the CT scan revealed something strange. So I've had another one-stop shop since then, and I've got another one due just before Christmas, and then I think my next MRI scan and CT scan are into January. So there's there's a program, there's an ongoing program, which is good. I think that's really good. Week 12 was my first holiday since it was just down to Cornwall, and at the end of that, so being out, that sort of forced me to try and start to eat things, because of course all through this period I've been sort of supplements through the peg tube, and which you get to live with, actually. So, and I'm even now starting to enjoy them. So don't tell anybody. so because now I'm drinking them rather than just putting them through the peg tube, so I'm actually enjoying them now. The big milestone there was at the end of that holiday, I had my first full English breakfast, where it was a plate that started off with a full English breakfast. Now, the real disconcerting thing was that my watch vibrates if you can sing for longer than an hour without walking, and it actually vibrated. Told me I had to take a walk while I was part way through this breakfast, because it takes so long just to. And obviously I didn't eat the whole thing, but that was quite. That's silly little milestones like that are really good ones to go for. So I think it was week 14 from the start of the treatment when we had the scare from the CT scan and everything. And when I was talking with Jen, the dietitian, about the problems I've got with my neck and everything, she'd said that sounds like it might be lymphedemia. So she referred me to the NHS lymphedemia unit, but they can't see me till January, I think. So I managed to find through the Association of Manual Lymphedemia Drainage Specialists or something, the association of them, I managed to find somebody to see on that, and I've seen her twice, I think, and that's starting to help, and she has a sort of massaging technique. But what I use, and again, this could be really useful if you've got a sort of swelling in and a big build of mucus. I have a vibrating ball which I massage balls in Spain a couple of years ago. I never used for anything for obvious reasons, and just doing that down there, and I think you have to open your lymph nodes in under each armpit, but then just gently moving that down. I do this is my routine now, every morning and every night before I go to bed, and it just takes away this big mucusy swelling here and drains that away, and then it builds up again during the night and builds up during the day. But that I don't think this cost me about €8, I think, and it's a great thing and it really has helped. Really has helped a lot, so much so that I've really replaced nebulizing now with that. So that's a really good thing to do. I'm also during this period seeing a really fantastic NHS speech therapist, she's really helping as well, because that's mainly so that I can go back to singing when I play the ukulele, etc. So that's really good. So it's a long period, but it does all move in the right direction. So between weeks 21 and week 23, my first flight and the Spanish holiday, which had to be cancelled earlier in the year. That was absolutely brilliant. Of course, if you want to eat little and often, then Spain and tapas is the way to do it. Again, a little tip there. I was still on the supplements, and I was still on the feed through the peg tube. If I'd taken my supplements out with me for a fortnight, I think it would have weighed 17 kilos of my baggage. But Jen put me onto powders, so which was much less. So I could just take the powder out, mix it with some milk, and then pump that through the tube. And she also gave me a letter in case anybody stopped me in customs taking white powder through the which I haven't used up for them. But that was good. And week 24, first full curry as well. So on the bank. So really, if we at the time of recording, I'm on week 30. I stopped my peg feeding at week 27, so I'm now sort of 2.5 weeks without having fed through the tube. I've still got the tube because there's a waiting list to get it taken out. But if you are struggling and you've got the supplements, then the routine that I've got into is that I'll take up to 1,000 or even 1,300 calories for breakfast, as it were. So that so I'll take one of the fiber ones with some milk now because I'm drinking it, and the little coffee ones I have quite often during the day. So I put, I need to have 2,200 calories a day. If I've got the 1,300 calories in the morning, then that means I can experiment during the day, because I am still experimenting. It makes it difficult to go out to dinner and that sort of thing, because I might order a dish and only eat a small fraction of it. But doing it that way, I know that if I've tried something for lunch and I really don't like it, can't eat it. I'll try something for dinner and I can't eat it, then I can just top up the rest just with 1 or 2 supplements, and that really works well. And for me, it means that because I'm a foodie, I've now got the sort of the joy of cooking back and trying to eat healthily. So I make lots of homemade soups, lots of salads, and lots of sort of dishes and that sort of thing, which is a big breakthrough for me, because it's made means cooking's fun again. So so I can only comment up to week 30, but so far so good. So just really don't let it grind you down. Don't hide away. It's not as bad as it looks, but a lot of it is in there as well. So don't hide away. Recognize the fact that you're going through something pretty brutal, and live with it accordingly, and hopefully you'll be well.
And we've got Christmas coming up, so how will you manage things during the busy, manic Christmas period? Have you got any strategies or any tips, tricks? Because obviously, you've still got some effects. I don't know if fatigue's still an issue, and like you say, eating small portions and that kind of. So have you thought, or even have you thought about it? Because we're not quite December.
I'm thinking about it. I tend to sort of do a lot of the cooking over Christmas, so my enthusiasm's back for that. We are, Nick and myself are going to have our own works works Christmas party, and we're going to actually go to a decent pub, a decent restaurant, and have a Christmas dinner put on the table for us, and then we just walk away afterwards. So that's whether I'll eat it or I don't know, but I am tending to find meats quite difficult because it's meat, it's meat, bread, and mashed potato, particularly, that is really difficult to break down. But it gets better. It gets better each day. So it should be all right. Busy period, yeah, it is. I've turned down a couple of dinner invitations because it is that is a bit too much, I think. But I'm hoping we'll be back. The kids are definitely make sure we're back functioning at Christmas, and I'm hoping to do a couple of little ukulele sessions as well. But that's as long as Shiko isn't listening to the podcast.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.